Oh, dude, I heard a pop.
Oh, it's my back.
You know what? You've positioned yourself in such a way in my life that there's a mild part of me that enjoys watching you suffer a little bit.
Really? That's nice of you to say.
I don't know why that is.
Ouch.
I'm just being honest, but no, I actually recognize that back pain because I think I've had the exact same thing and it is not fun.
I've never had back pain that I'm aware of.
Well, you're at that age now.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
You can do the most mild things and throw your back out.
I know. Well, I don't know that it was very mild. I was aggressively trying to push something that wasn't willing to move.
Then you learned your lesson.
And my back.
Marshall, you're not young anymore.
I just beg to differ.
You're back and I agree.
Well,
what were you even doing?
I was there. A roof was dented in and I was trying to push it out with my foot.
And you were in the car?
Yeah.
Kicking it? Like kind of?
Kicking it would sound like I'm like
using your legs?
Pushing it
with your legs.
With my legs. Yeah.
And you were like on your back.
Yeah.
How?
What do you mean how?
Like in the seat? Tip back?
Yeah, in the seat and just like in a...
Oh, weird.
Is that weird?
That's a weird way to throw your back out.
Well, that's what I thought. That's why I was like, whoa, why does my back all of a sudden hurt? That's why I think it's just a muscle. I think I was just using a muscle I haven't used in a long time.
Yeah, that could be. You might have got lucky.
Yeah.
It's not that, what did I tell you? Slip disc.
Yeah, it's not a slip disc. I'm not that old.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting there.
And I think I'm healthy. I think. Are you ready to talk about what we're going to talk about today?
I am. I'm so ready to talk about
Do you even know what we're talking about today?
The thing.
The thing.
The thing we said we were going to talk about.
You know what? Some people ask me, they go, do you know what you're talking about beforehand? I said, yeah, lots of times. But not all the time.
Or we go into it a strong direction and then we just quickly go the opposite
goes
direction.
Somewhere else.
Which
like
is...
The other day when you're like, I think this is what we're going to talk about. We ended up talking about something totally different because of how you asked me something at the beginning. Wasn't supposed to be a part of the show. And I was like, I'll just leave it on there.
Or I tend to just go in too hard too quickly on the thing.
That's true.
Like with Brandon and the Bitcoin. I was like ready to just not even what is Bitcoin? How did you get? No, I just wanted to get to the roots of it.
Yeah, let's find out why Bitcoin's an issue.
Does it have intrinsic
Here's why
value?
I don't like it. Tell me why you do. Well, hold on. What is it for all those newcomers?
Actually, that was a really good part of the podcast. It was one of the few compliments I got about you over time.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I did. Yeah, thank you.
You did a good job of slowing it down. And I think for Brandon and I both, you did a good job of being like, hey, not in a good way.
Is this your show? Is that what people think? They go, oh, it's the Aaron show and Marshall's on it.
I feel like it's the opposite, dude, where they're like, you can't get a word in edgewise.
Oh.
But you did a good job that time, slowing it down.
Thank you.
I was going way too quick.
I'll see how well I do today.
You were actually getting us back on to subject, which is very unlike you.
That's weird.
Because typically you're actively trying to throw this whole thing off.
It's like I'm the anti-show person.
So what are we talking about today?
We were going to talk about immigration today.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that what you want to go with?
It's a big thing.
It is a big thing. Well, I wanted to talk about it with you specifically because it's a big thing going on, at the border right now, and then open borders. It's a very, very woke thing to have. But I think we can talk about it in a couple different angles. But one of the things I wanted to pick your brain on, because you're an economist, and
the economist and the theologian.
Yep. The economist. Oh, that's what our new name should be.
Economist
and the theologian.
It's just a lie. Mm-hmm. The two liars.
Is it? The two opinionated liars?
Yeah.
So you have your economics degree. And so I think you could lend, to some of those people that go, hey, is immigration a good thing or a bad thing? Because a lot of people talk about the United States being, we're birthed in immigration, right? I mean, it's what we're founded on is immigration. And then, so they go, we should let everybody in. And they take that to the extreme. And I think there's good and there's bad behind it, right? Mm-hmm. There's people that go, well, we should have some strong immigration. Some people saying we should have lax immigration. And I think we can go down any path we want to, but I wanted to know from an economic standpoint, is immigration a good thing overall?
Yeah. Well, you made a good point about the early parts of America, like prior to, I think, 1915, before they really started putting certain restrictions in, and heavier subsidization within America became, like, the welfare state began to grow a little bit more in that time frame. But it is a good thing, because I think that if people are willing to come from a different country to try to make a better life for themselves in our country, and they're here for the jobs, that is a good thing. That can be a very good thing.
Here for the jobs. What else would they be here for?
Subsidies.
The women?
The women.
men?
The men. Yes. I think that would be the distinction I would make, is that I don't know that I love the idea of completely open borders, like completely open as in no formal process whatsoever. But I'm not a closed border person. The only reason that I've grown to be more of a closed border person is because we are not the same America that we were back then. And people aren't coming here just with the honest, pure intention of getting a job and being a part of society here.
Can I ask you a historical question that you may or may not know the answer to?
Yep.
So when people were immigrating here back in the day, Ellis Island, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coming off the boats, did they not have to check in somehow?
I don't know the answer to that. I would assume...
I thought there was a ledger.
I was going to say, I always see these old ledgers. Like, I have this Ancestry.com account, and I got to see, like, old, weird...
Yeah, they had to make up last names because they couldn't pronounce some of them, right?
Yeah,
and,
like, somebody was just standing there literally checking people in like
right.
It was a supermarket.
But there was still a check-in. It wasn't like you just walked in.
Yeah.
Right?
But to what extent that played out in the rest of their lives, was it just like, okay, Joe Schmo, you're here, gotcha.
No, I mean, at least that's better than nothing.
And then to your question earlier, where does it go? Where did the ledger go? Where does
that was about Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's about your money.
That's
Bitcoin.
about when I.
All right, it's back to Bitcoin again.
Yeah. Well, listen, I put money in it after our episode. I'm sure we'll get back here just a second to immigration, but I put money in after our episode. I was like, what the heck? I should at least put some money in. And like in 2 days, I made like $100, and I was like, this is awesome. And then just today, I'm like, who has my money? Like, who's holding it?
It was a classic example of, we started off, you, myself, and Andrew in a room having a good conversation, and then you quickly asked what I thought was like the dumb question. It was like, what about Canadian dollars? It was like that question where I was like, I don't know. You asked me, when I buy my Bitcoin, where does my money go? And I was like, to Bitcoin. You're like, but where does the physical dollars go? And it like took me like 5 minutes to sit there and go, where does the money go?
You're like, well, it's just like when you enter to Chase Bank. I know where Chase Bank is. I don't know we don't even know who owns Bitcoin.
It's like I had to work through it, and I could tell Andrew was in the same boat. We're like, I don't know, man, just process through this real quick. Here's... Yeah.
This Satoshi Nakamoto dude is like just laughing himself, because he's going, dude, I invented this thing that's worth nothing, and they don't even know that all the dollars are going to me. Like, couldn't that be a possibility?
And then again, the other question I couldn't get answered: if the big selling point for Bitcoin is scarcity, it's a finite amount. Why can you not just say other things that are scarce are also just inherently valuable? There's a lot of things there aren't a lot of that aren't valuable. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know they're out there.
What's in Borat when he's like, he collects the pubic hair and he's like, I can have 700 bags by Friday. You're like, that might be scarce. I don't know. Yeah. Gross. But anyway, we're going to get back to immigration.
So the ledger.
Bitcoin was... that was last episode. We're going to leave it alone. We don't need to get on that.
We can't let it go. So many unanswered questions.
But one more thing about it. No, I'm just
I don't know, to answer your question. I don't know what they're checking. I don't know what that process is.
So like. I didn't know this about you, though. You're okay with... You like open borders.
No. To be clear, if we weren't a welfare state, I would be for open borders.
What does that mean, a welfare state?
It means that we have like huge, large, lucrative social safety nets.
Are huge and large different measurements?
Apparently they are.
So is Canada a welfare state?
Yeah, it's like socialist, basically. A form of socialism.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
So, okay, Canada's a welfare state. We're a welfare state. Can you give me examples of other countries that are welfare states? Is Germany?
I think there's a lot of civilized countries do have a lot of social safety nets. I think America is probably pushing it in terms of... other than like socialist countries. So
isn't Europe just open borders? You can just like go through?
I don't know.
What?
I don't know the answer.
How do you not know that? I'm pretty sure they are.
Wouldn't it be country by country to some degree?
Yeah, I'm talking Europe generally.
Just the general place.
Just a general giant.
I think that immigration is
like
a good thing.
The popular European countries.
Because as you said, back in the old days, whenever that was, I don't know the exact year, 1915 and prior probably is what I think it was. Yes, people could arrive to Ellis Island, but there was no expectation when they got here that there was anything for them. They had to get a job and be productive. And so for the crowd that it drew, it was like the only people that were coming here were people who, I mean, there was obviously bad with the good, but they were people who came here to actively, productively make a better life.
So you look at immigration as like a business going, hey, if you're going to bring something to this business, i.e. America,
Yeah.
and do something with it, then you're welcome in. But if you're not going to participate, then we don't really want you here.
Well, it's like the capitalist system to some degree, I think, is forced, and I've said this before, forced altruism, meaning I can't make you a better person, but in a capitalist system, you have to produce something at a fair price that's decent enough quality that people will exchange their dollars for it. So it's like, if you want to come and be successful in here, you got to produce something to make any money to get through. The problem now, though, to answer your question, and listen, there's different views on this from people who I really respect. Like Thomas Sowell believes we need border walls. Thomas Sowell's an economist, and he's a really smart guy. He believes that we need border protection.
Huge wall.
He literally said 5 feet deep and over 10 feet tall with barbed wire. And then he's like, only the strongest,
only the highest jumpers can get there.
And then you have people like Milton Friedman who tend to argue similar to me, which is we can have open borders, but you just can't have the welfare state that's going to bleed us dry.
Okay, so you would get rid of the welfare system and have open borders.
Not the literal welfare system, but yes, like the propensity for America to just subsidize everybody who needs anything. Because it's too much.
Well, so I guess you'd have to define that a little bit more. I don't even know.
Free college, subsidized college.
Who's got free college? What are you talking about?
Cheaper college, subsidized loans for college.
Who's got free college? You can't just say free college, free college. Who's
subsidized college.
Who's subsidizing it?
The government.
It's a loan.
It's a subsidized loan.
Okay. But still, it's expected to be paid back by the person who gets their degree.
Yeah, but it's not expensive. You can defer the crap out of it.
You know, if people could see your facial expression versus my facial
because
expression.
I have a student
Our
loan.
argument is like all in facial expressions. Right
I have a student loan, and the way that you can manipulate that to really not ever have to pay it fully back.
Defer it?
You can defer it. You can do like income based, where if you feel like your wages are going down, or like in COVID crisis, they have suspended my student loan payment for...
Why wouldn't you just go back to school and be like, I need a loan, and then like just, drop the classes and then get a refund? Is that a...
Because you can only do that once.
Oh,
and then they go, as long as you didn't finish those classes, but you got paid, you either have to pay it back, or I think you get one redo where they're like, okay, you can come back. And
okay, but you at least get one opportunity, one shot.
You get one opportunity to collect a check.
Okay, well, that's a system you could work. I didn't know that.
Welfare, like WIC and things like that.
You'd get rid of WIC? WIC is for women.
I'm not saying I'd get rid of it. I'm just saying if you want to have open borders and open immigration, you would have to limit some of these, right?
Okay.
Or you'd have to at least contain
them.
So
if your argument was with somebody who's like, dude, we just need to open the borders. Just open them. You need to be a humanitarian and let those people in because America's better than, Mexico right now, right? Because we're really talking about Mexico when we're talking about the open borders. Because I don't know how many people are fleeing from Canada to us. But, I mean, there are people. Yes, thank you.
But yes, we're talking about Mexico.
Right. And there's not any, for those people who don't know geography, there's no other connecting countries, right? It's just, you ever play Risk? Do you like Risk?
No, never played it. Actually, no, I have played it. I don't know if I played it actually. Which one is that? Describe it to me.
It's got a map of the world.
Nope, never played it. Okay. I know that one. I've never played that one.
Wow.
Everyone tells me I'd love that game.
It's super fun. I play it with my kids and it's like world domination and you have like little military people. But when you're in, when you're North America, you only have Mexico and Canada that can get into you from land. Otherwise you got to like take a boat. Anyway, it's super easy to fortify. South America or the same way. But anyway, those people who don't know geography, Mexico and Canada are the only places that come in. So we're talking about open borders for Mexico, and you would be against that. You would be for that if our welfare system was more tight,
contained. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when somebody's having this discussion with you, you think they would be open to that, or do you think most people who are on the open border side are saying, I want both?
Well,
I want the welfare system, and we got to take care of these people because honestly, they're humans, and it's a human right to live.
I think that most people that I've talked to anyway that are arguing for completely open borders are doing it from the bleeding heart mentality, where it's like it's because they need a place to come, they need refugee or asylum,
which is surprising because you don't have a bleeding heart. You're like very calloused. I'm surprised you would be open.
But there's an economic policy behind it that makes sense.
Okay.
So this is where I could lie on that side, but I don't think it's going to happen because I think that's what would need to happen is the social welfare system that we have here would need to be tightened up a lot in order to make it, in order for us to be able to benefit significantly from open borders.
So why do so many politicians, obviously we've got the different sides of the fence. You got the people who are like, we need the wall, and then the people who are like, open the borders. Why are the politicians wanting it so much? How's it advantageous for them?
Well, I mean, it's my opinion, and I would love to get your opinion. All we do. And I'd love to get your opinion.
No facts.
I would love to get
no feelings.
Your opinion too. But I mean, for me, it's just pandering. That's what politics is these days. They're pandering.
You think they're just pandering to people?
Yeah, because
you don't think there's an agenda for it?
No, not really. I mean, I think that
you don't think that they want more votes.
That's what pandering is.
Oh,
yeah, they're pandering to get more votes. So what I'm saying is that I think that I think
couldn't you just say pandering to get anything?
I think but what do politicians want to pander for? Votes, obviously.
Or they could pander for anything, I guess.
I think that there is a lot of really smart people in government. Elizabeth Warren is actually one of them, who espouses some of the most silly, ridiculous policies.
But she's really smart.
And she's super smart. So I know in my brain, I know she knows better, but she's not in the business of doing the right thing. She's in the business of getting votes. And so that's what she does. She espouses whatever is the ideological leaning of her party, which is everything left. And that's what she does, whether she really believes it in her heart of hearts or not. Similarly, I think Donald Trump was probably pandering to the right pretty hard when he was saying, build the wall, build the wall.
Yeah.
That was his slogan. I think it was just pandering.
Yeah, I think it was something that went off in a speech one time, and he's like,
because he didn't even get very far.
Are you sure?
I'm not very unsure.
No, they started it.
Same thing as didn't get very far.
Okay, well, he had to get approval from Congress to do it, and they kept stopping him. But.
Well, I think he was in a tough position in that he had to follow through to some extent, because otherwise it looked like a completely empty campaign trail promise. It kind of turned out to be, but
hey, who wants that wall now? I bet everybody does, huh?
I don't know who wants the wall now. That is a good question. I'm curious from your take. What prior to this conversation, and maybe after, what is your take on immigration?
Well, that's interesting.
And why?
I'm intrigued by the economic aspect because, you've talked to me about it before, where people, it's good for an economy to bring people in. And one of the things I worry about here is like, are we a declining country? Like, we're not having very many births, right? People are dying more than they're being born. So then how does the country grow? Well, the only other way for it to grow would be immigration. So you go, okay, well, to some extent, I mean, like, we can't be dying, and we only have 300 and something million people here, and China's got 1 billion, so they say. So if we ever go to war with another country, I mean, we're kind of outnumbered
So you want to recruit immigrants?
I want to recruit immigrants.
Gotcha.
I think, America's an amazing place. It's freedom, and if you're any sort of person that has an opinion on things, you should really appreciate the freedom that America allots you. Whether you're religious or not religious, the fact that you have that and you're not, thrown in jail because of it is pretty amazing. I mean, you hear about stories or just old stories, news stories of other countries where they lock you in jail for being a homosexual, for being religious, or freaking stealing an apple and your hand gets cut off, right? I mean, there's due process here. There's a lot of just freedoms we take for granted, and then there's so many younger Americans that are naive to everything that just think that the whole world is like America, and so we should be open and accepting to the places.
Or worse, they think poorly of America because they completely lack perspective.
But if they thought poorly of America, then why would they want people to come here?
Because they know that it's a great place that offers a lot. They just think
it's poor. They think poorly of America, but they think it's a great place.
They think it's rich. They think it's wealthy. But I don't think they conflate wealthy and good. Like, I think they go, well, we're rich, but we're evil, right? So that's the two things they think. And so it's basically their way of trying to say, well, we need to offer up, quit being so greedy is in essence it.
So I agree with immigration. I think we should allow it. I think there should absolutely be due process. One of the things that I don't like, just even with the stupid people that live here in America, we don't know our history very well. We don't even know our freaking geography very well. But we don't know our history well. And when you don't know it, you're, that old saying, those who don't know history are destined to repeat its mistakes. It's like a really true statement, right? I mean, you see it all the time.
But what do you say to people who go, and this reminds me of a little bit of a story that I had from somebody I know who's currently going through the immigration process.
I have quite a few friends that have immigrated here.
His wife is struggling to get her citizenship. And I said, well, why? What's the struggle? I'm curious from the inside, like, what is the struggle? And he said, well, it's expensive. It's gotten a little bit cheaper over time, but it is expensive. And I said, well, it's expensive. He's like, $7 to 10 grand.
Wow, I didn't know it was
And
that
I
expensive.
said, wow, that is a little bit of a barrier to entry. That does make it hard. And I said, well, okay, aside from the money, like what else is there? And it's like a test they take. And he goes, yeah, it's a really long test. And she is not the best with English. So she's working on that. But he's like, the silliest part is it's a bunch of questions that I'm pretty sure nobody here would even know how to answer.
Well, that's not a reason they shouldn't know it.
Why?
Because that shows a failure on our education for our people that are already citizens of the United States. That's a failure on our part.
Okay, fair enough. So then I said, well, hey, Mr. X, what if, because he was talking
Mr.
to
X.
some of his day-to-day struggles,
That's kind of a
like,
cool name.
like I have to go pick my wife up because she can't drive, because she can't get insurance. She can't get insurance because she can't prove citizenship. She gets pulled over. And I said, what happens if she gets pulled over? He said, she gets deported. I go, can you walk me through what that looks like? I literally want to know what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because we always hear the stories in the media, like kids in cages and he goes, yeah, they literally will take her down to Mexico and drop her off. And I go, do you know anybody in Mexico? Like, would they turn her over to family? He's like, we literally know nobody, none of her parents, none of her family. I go, so they would just leave her in a town? And he goes, yeah, they would just drop her at the town nearest her birth or nearest her nearest ancestor's birth and leave her. And I was like, that seems pretty harsh. So my question to you is, you want stringent sort of like process.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like that's a stringent enough process?
Yeah, but
Too stringent?
maybe to some extent. I mean, maybe the cost could be. I would want to verify that that's the cost, because I know quite a few people who have immigrated here, and that's never been a barrier they've talked about.
Sure.
But the one thing that I think is unfair, I want to come back to that one, strictly talking about Mexico, because that was the example there, right? Yeah. But what I think is unfair is we allow a certain amount of immigrants per year, right? Mm-hmm. We say, I'm sure there's some sort of reason behind this, what we can handle. Let's just say we could handle even more and we decide to, up it. And I think it's like 1 million people per year. But let's just say we said, you know what? We want to be a fair country. We want to do 5 million a year. It's not fair that we just say, okay, let's open it all to everybody from Mexico. What about all the people from other parts of the world, which is a pretty big world for those people who don't know. And they don't have just this ability to just walk over. We're denying them the ability to come over here. Mm-hmm. Because they can't cheat their way over here. They can't just jump a fence or travel from one end of their country to the other and then magically be here. So we're cheating a bunch of people. Now, if you go to the people in Mexico and you say it's 7 to 10 grand, that's fine. Let's play that out. Okay. If your student loans right now, how much have you paid off of your student loans?
10,000.
You paid off 10,000 out of, if you don't mind me asking?
Probably 50.
50? Wow, you really have deferred quite a bit.
No, I didn't actually. I paid a lot up front, and then it's like the way a loan amortizes, mostly interest for the first few years. Right. Well, mine is 25 years, so.
Whoa, is it a low interest rate?
It's, no, it's like 4%.
Oh man, mine was low.
I got the wrong government subsidized loan. They screwed me.
So I paid off my student loans. Okay.
1%er.
No, my wife now has student loans. Okay. That was just something.
That's good.
Yeah. So I do have them, but I paid mine off, and there's people that have paid off 10,000. Now, if they forgave everybody's student loans, how would you feel about that?
If they forgave everyone's
student loans?
Yeah, they're like,
because that's what they're asking for.
Awful.
Hey, why?
Because it would create inflation.
Right. But you've paid 10 grand. You'd be like, where's my 10 grand that I already paid? Right.
Oh yeah. True.
Right. That's not fair. Right.
True. It's like when we do, discounts at our car dealership. We're like, okay, starting this day, these cars are $500 off. And then all the people who bought the day before are like, what the heck, man? I just bought that. Where's my $500?
Well, should have been here the day before, right? Should have got your student loans, 10 years later. So I'd be like, hey, where's my whatever grand that I, 50 grand or whatever I had in student loans? Where's mine? I want that back, because that's not fair. Now, those same people that legally immigrated here paid the $7,000 to $10,000 or whatever it may be. If it's not, I'm not sure. I'm not convinced fully that it's that much.
Sure.
But let's pretend it is. All those people coming over here and then, they're just going, hey, all right, well, let's just make you citizens. How fair is that? They went through, that's why some of my closest friends that are immigrants here that came here the legal way, learned what they needed to learn for America, paid the money to get here, did the due process, come here and they're like, no, I don't believe in, I don't believe in this open border
I think
stuff.
some of the strongest opponents of illegal immigration are the people who did it legally. But here's another question for you. Another example. So in this case, Mr. X, he's here legally. He's here legally. His wife is here illegally. But she was like 2 years old when she got brought here by her parents. She has literally grown up here, and now she's suffering these consequences. Does that change any bit of your view on how they handle it? Like, you know, when Donald Trump was in office and they were talking about deporting people, and they were really just billboarding how he was just raiding people's homes and deporting people down to Mexico and how awful it was, and kids in cages, and that was like a whole thing.
You know they're doing that right now, right?
Oh, I totally know
they're over 1,500% capacity.
Right. Does that?
I just heard that today.
Well, back in those times, I was like, well,
back in the day,
hey, do it legally and everything's fine. That's my only ask. It's just, why not just do it legally? I didn't really think it through, but after hearing Mr. X's story and going, yeah, that is kind of unfair, because she didn't mean to do anything wrong. She was 2 years old when she got brought here.
Sure. And I think that's what they try to weed through. The problem is, if you have all this, if you have this openness, you can't weed through that. If you have the problem, which you do right now, and you know what the problem is? Do you know what's going on right now?
Which problem?
The immigration problem they have at the border right now is a huge one. It's like a crisis. Even the most anti-Trump people, news organizations are going, this is kind of an issue going on at the border. And you know what it is? That, like, they even did an interview. It's Biden. They said, why are you trying to get across? Well, Biden said that, he basically said he would provide an opportunity for us. And they said, well, would you do this under Trump? And they said, no, we wouldn't have done it under Trump, but Biden promised us something. Even the Mexican government has come out and said, Biden, you kind of made some promises that you're not keeping here. And so you incited this on your own. Now people are trying to flock to you because you got elected president and you said, hey, we should have open borders. And now you're not doing that. And you're locking people in cages.
And doesn't it seem like
worse than it was
doesn't it seem
before.
like they're weirdly silent about it right now? Like, I only hear the opposition. I don't really hear his administration coming out, other than his press secretary fending off reporters.
Feel bad for her, man.
Oh, man, she's getting shredded.
She's not very good.
She really sucks, dude.
She is not. I mean, she just says we'll circle back to it all the time.
She really does.
You have to know that like, if you have a common phrase that you use all the time, does anybody ever bring that up with you where they're like,
yeah,
Aaron, you say this a lot, or your wife says it, because probably not a lot of people.
I say like a lot. I know like isn't necessarily a phrase, but it's one of those things.
It's a word, yeah.
Once you say it, you're like, oh crap, I'm doing that all the time.
So then once you hear that, do you try to fix it?
And it's super hard. Mm-hmm. But that's what she is with Circle Back.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, now they're making fun of me, but I'm still going to use it. Mm-hmm. So you either go, you know what, I'm going to go full throttle and I'm going to get on the news all the time for saying I'm going to circle back, or I'm going to try to consciously correct that.
And she's just got a bad attitude. You could just tell. Like the other girl, I never remember her name.
Kalia McKenna or whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. She just had more of a good disposition, and she seemed like she was constantly zinging people.
Well, she had a binder too. She was always flipping through like, well, I have this fact.
This girl has a binder.
Right here.
She just sucks at it.
Oh, okay. She doesn't have it organized.
She's got the wrong binder.
Actually, I have seen her flip through it, and she's like, let me find that page. Crap, I didn't label them.
And then you could tell she's just reading it, which I could kind of tell the other girl was, but she would read a little bit, and then she would just get into it, and this girl just reads, and
Did you know any other press secretary before the Trump/Biden administration?
Dude, when Trump was out of office, I was like, oh, who's this next person going to be? Mm-hmm. Do you find it odd that it was like kind of a similar aged female again? Like, why not like an older woman or an older man, or I don't know, it just seemed like, is that like the new archetype press secretary?
It's got to be a woman.
Younger female.
Younger woman. Well, they could have picked a more attractive one.
So let me just back up. You are for open borders?
No, I'm not for open borders.
You're for closed borders.
Yeah. Have you ever done a border crossing?
No. Oh yeah, I have.
Okay. Wow.
Where? It was Mexico, San Diego, Tijuana.
Yeah. Okay. How'd that look?
Easy one way and much harder the other way.
Yeah. You walked right into Mexico. Nobody looked for anything, right? Yeah. And then all these Mexican government officials carrying their AK-47s at the border, but they don't check anything. Mm-hmm. They just stand there and you're like, what did I walk into?
Yeah, where am I? Yeah. How did I get out of here?
And then coming back in was
harder.
Yeah, and you had to show your passport.
Yep. And you got a little nervous and making sure
you have to answer some questions.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Which way did you like better?
Well, living where I live, I like that there was a little bit of a rigorous process to get in, so that was
like
nice.
Something was better than nothing. Like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, if you would have just been stopped walking over, going, hey,
no, getting in was like, oh, this is why parts of this country are really rough, because they do not check. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
you
maybe
taken anything in there.
Maybe I misstated. You're not for open borders like it is from America to get into Mexico, but I just mean like, you're pro-immigration?
I'm pro-immigration, yeah,
and you're pro-legal immigration.
100%.
And is that because of the same reason that I'm saying? Because like I would be okay with open borders as long as we didn't have the social safety net that we do that would provide for everybody?
No.
So you want...
I'm pro... No, it's not the same reason. I want people to go through a process because I want them to appreciate the United States. I think I wish we would go through the same process with our kids in school going, you know what? You can't even get into high school until you answer these questions. Because if you want to be a citizen, a contributing citizen to the United States, you need to answer these.
What are your thoughts on the argument that, well, they're going to, if we let a bunch of illegals come over the border and take all of our jobs or drive wages down. Have you heard any of that?
Take what jobs? Great. Take them. You know how many people are not trying to get jobs right now? I would love people who are willing to work and work hard. And some of the best workers are the people who have immigrated here because they have to work hard, not getting paid. They're working hard just to stay alive or working hard just to, farm some food for their family. I mean, some of the hardest workers I know don't get paid. And so, yes, those are the people I want here. And then we have a bunch of just people who are lazy.
So your concern really...
non-contributing people in society. I want contributing people in society.
Okay, so your real concern is you don't mind people immigrating here legally. You want them put through a test to prove that they are willing to do what it takes to want to be here and be productive. Yeah. And then you're fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if when you watch the Olympics is one of my favorite things. Do you watch the Olympics?
Yep.
Yeah. My DVR fills up when that wasn't a thing that existed. Now I think it's unlimited DVR space.
You have dated yourself.
Now that's unfortunate because unlimited DVR space is relatively new, sir.
Dude, I just watched this documentary on the last Blockbuster.
Oh, I saw that.
It made me feel old because I was like, oh my gosh.
Isn't it in Sandy, Oregon?
It's in Bend.
Bend, Oregon. That's
Bend.
What it is. Yep.
And I was like, oh my gosh. Because I am from a generation like those don't exist anymore. And I very much remember when they were a part of my life.
Late fees. You're like, I have to go take this back tonight.
And dude, going down and like walking the aisles and like buying candy or whatever.
And the new movie came out and you're like, oh, I want to watch it, but they're all sold out.
They're all sold out. Yes. That dated me so hard where I was like, oh my gosh, must be what my parents feel like.
Now you get in there and the kids are like, hey, we want to watch 007. You're like, well, it doesn't matter whether you have it on, they're just like, find it.
Yeah, find it on which app. That is the newest pain in my butt is like, oh gosh, I gotta look through like 4 apps to figure out.
Oh no, I just Google it. I go, what app or what streaming network is this movie on?
Yeah, that's true. And then
because I have them all, I just need to know which one.
Yeah, exactly. I have them all, and then you just have to pick it. Yeah, that's true. But that documentary made me feel really old. I was like, oh my gosh, I remember when this was like a real thing. And our kids don't have any. They're never. I mean, especially my kid.
Well, dude,
I'm not gonna have any idea what a video.
This is why we're one of the best generations because we had it and then we don't, and so we know what it's like. It's like when my kids get into the car and they're like, "Hey, play this song," and you're like, "I can't." I mean, you realize that wasn't an option. They're like, "Well, it is now, so just find the song."
Or like streaming Bluetooth. Like I remember you had an aux cord you had to plug in, or when you
make sure that aux cord works and so it's not fuzzy.
Or like I'm trying to think if I lived in a time where that wasn't even a thing. An aux cord.
It was kind of like Louis C.K. does this bit about airplanes, and he's like, man, I was on an airplane once when they went over the speaker and they're like, yeah, so sorry, but the Wi-Fi is not working. And the guy next to him goes, psh, this is ridiculous. And he goes, ridiculous that you can't do internet on the airplane? We should all be screaming the whole way because we're in an airplane 10,000 feet above Earth flying at 500 miles an hour.
Right, no appreciation.
That's what we should be appreciating, that we can go from one place to the other in like an hour.
You lose that perspective. Like, I'll get in a car, and by the way, this is another like new age thing. I will flip through my phone and have like 40 cars on my Bluetooth, and I'm like, I don't know what Land Rover this is. Dang it, I gotta delete them all.
You're ever talking to somebody, and you're like, it's just, who started that car?
Yes, that happens to me when I'm in the bathroom. Sometimes I'm like, ah, crap, someone's hearing some Jordan Peterson podcast right now down in the showroom. Hopefully he's not offending anybody. Yeah.
Well, going back to the Olympics, which is where I was at, did not lose my train of thought. Thank you. That's called a win. Mark that up.
Dang it.
And anyway, it was one of my favorite things is the Olympics, and the people who win, because it unites all countries, right? Mm-hmm. You can set our differences aside. North Korea, come on to the Olympics. Russia will participate in the Olympics, and all those people that we might have, some whatever tumultuous relationships with, but when it comes to the Olympics, we're just playing sports, right? Mm-hmm. It's the thing that unites everybody. And then the people that win, that get the gold medal and the bronze and the silver, they go up there and they get to listen to their national anthem. And you're like, they have pride in their country. They wouldn't just go, yes, I won the gold, and play whatever national anthem they want. They go, I want to play mine. And so when people come here, I want them to appreciate our flag, what it stands for. And I mean, do you even know what our flag stands for?
Me personally?
Like what it means. Like it's red, white, and blue, and it's got 50 stars on it. It means something, right?
You're right.
Do you know what it is?
The states, the 50 states.
That's
that we're
good.
talking about?
Yeah.
And then the other one is what? The stripes? I don't remember what they're for.
It was like the 13 colonies.
Was that? No. Is that what that was?
Yes.
Because it used to be didn't it used to be like 13 stars originally?
Probably. And then like the
Who
blood
knows?
that was shed for it. And that's why
I'm not trying to pass some immigration test. I'm already here, so let me be.
Hey, knock it off. And that, I always wonder why we don't add, like, don't we own some other, like the Philippines and some other
Costa Rica, I think,
and some other stuff that we don't want to add it because maybe we don't want to add another star. I don't know.
What is that about? I don't understand why we like. One of the guys I actually listened to, Peter Schiff, he's like, I live in Costa Rica. The tax laws are way better. It's part of America, and I go, but it's not. But it is. Like, what is that?
The U.S. Marshall Islands? Is that?
Yeah. Like, why did we purchase or conquer? I don't even know how we got it, to be honest.
I don't.
And how long we owned it.
Enough people wanted to be there in that country. They just said, "We're giving this to you, the United States. We've all voted as a people."
You know, I've heard that there's people in Hawaii who are like not quite feeling as connected to America. Like they're like, we're kind of our own thing. Like their culture is like, we're Hawaiians.
Oh yeah, because they didn't want to be taken over. We took them over.
Yeah,
we did. They had a king.
I found that they had a king. I know it's so strange. I don't know why that's so strange to me, but I found that weird that still lingers. And I'm actually
they're not into the 4th of July as we are. Did you know that?
That's interesting.
Yeah, I went over there for the 4th of July one year, and I was like, it was like 8:30. It was dark because the sun sets at 7. And it's just dark, and it was like 8:30, and everybody's done. And they went home, and I was like, "What? This party sucks."
What's everybody doing? Sounds like I need to move to Hawaii because I'm in bed by 8:30 on the 4th, and I'm very annoyed.
Sounds like you're anti-American.
I am very annoyed that people. No, I'm being rested so I can be productive the next day. That's nothing more American than being productive on a work day.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Hey, you're the one who's
not a work day.
You're the yes, it is.
No.
You're the one who wants to be open on the 4th.
No, that's not me. That's you.
No, that's you.
No, oh my gosh.
Okay, maybe this year.
Be more false.
But it's been a slow year.
There is my favorite holidays. 4th of July is on the top 5. I love 4th of July.
I love the 4th of July too.
Yeah. Then what's your second? Be closed.
What's your second favorite?
Well, Christmas is always up there.
If it's a weekend day, I'm a little more reserved. 4th
of July is not my favorite. It's like I said it's on my top 5.
I would say it's my favorite.
Well, no, Christmas. Christmas is always there. It's the birth of our Lord and Savior. Okay. Plus, we give and get. Okay, everything. It's a season. Okay,
where does Halloween fall?
Second.
Halloween's
amazing.
The most pagan holiday, right next to the most Christian holiday.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a conflict.
And then America comes into a distant third, or
it would be America's holiday, which would be 4th of July, and then Thanksgiving, and then it would probably be a tie between either Super Bowl or April Fools. I don't know.
Also, not real holidays.
Well, yeah, by your standards.
I am interested though because I think that one of the biggest arguments that I hear people on the right talk about with immigration is they're stealing our jobs. And
do you see that happening? Where's that happening?
I don't know, man. I mean, stealing a job, I guess. Well, I don't really even know what that means.
The jobs that actually they should be more worried about the illegal immigrants that are coming over, stealing the jobs, because we've left no other option. We're hiking the minimum wage up so high that they have to go a different route and hire illegals to do some of this manual labor, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that people really conflate jobs with productivity, and this is something we talked about with wealth, money, and productivity, because productivity makes your dollars go further. And I think that sometimes people misunderstand what labor can do. They go, oh, it'll squash wages down. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if people come over here and they're actually producing something, more production makes your dollars feel like it goes further. So this whole idea that they come over here and they steal our job, it's not a fixed pie, for one.
I only brought 1 cup, by the way. You're still doing Whole30?
I'm still doing Whole30.
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me drink all this?
I'm going to force you to drink all of it. Well, I feel bad because I know how much you spent on it now. So
I'm going to be on... No, you don't.
Yours.
This is a totally different bottle. Don't do that. We're not even going to talk about that.
It's probably bougier.
Okay.
Now that I know how you're living in Palm Springs.
I'm not living
Hey,
there.
did the cases arrive yet? Or okay, so they're still on the way. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that people mistake they think that it's a fixed pie and they're stealing jobs. That's one argument that I hear that I don't agree with, which is not a very economics-oriented argument.
Fixed pie, there's always something invented. Do you know that? Do you know what the minimum wage here is?
You know what I mean by like a fixed pie? Like meaning
I understand.
So
there's
many
only
jobs,
so much to get. Yeah.
And they're going to steal.
But there's always, what I'm saying is there's always something invented, right?
Yes.
Like that's, even when they say, oh, the machines, the ordering machines are stealing people's jobs. And I go, yeah, okay. But what that takes away adds to, right? So if the machine at McDonald's that takes your order took away the cashier's job, who's making those machines?
Well,
right?
and
so
it's
there's
like,
always jobs added when jobs are taken away.
Yeah, and it's like, I think in an economics class they talked about, I think it's called the cotton gin. I always mistake this
The
tool.
Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin.
Yeah, the cotton gin, and it was like,
sometimes your history's on par, and sometimes it's just like, where are you from?
It's just the word. I've read it so many times, and I'm like, is it gin that I don't remember.
Gin. Is it gin and tonic? Gin and cotton?
Cotton gin.
Cotton gin.
But it was invented, and this is a good example of
Cotton Eye Joe.
Productivity versus protection, right? Because protection is like, don't let them in because they'll steal our jobs. Protect our jobs, right? Versus productivity, let them in and don't worry. They'll create more stuff. They'll create more products. Productivity will go up. It'll be a net positive. Similar with the cotton gin, it was like, that used to be the thing that, or people used to.
Well, you're right. They were really worried about that.
People used to pick cotton and like process it by hand, and it required hundreds and hundreds of people in these factories. And then when the cotton gin came, these people wanted to protect their jobs, and they tried to boycott the cotton gin. Like, don't let America use that thing because it's going to steal all of our jobs. And it did no such thing. It simply created more efficiency and more productivity. Most of those people probably ended up getting jobs in other areas.
Now that they can create the cotton gin, and now that they can create more cotton, they can make more clothes.
Right. And moreover, right, if you had fast forward that argument 50 years and we forced the cotton gin to not be a part of our life, would we be better off for that? To have to get all of our clothes made by hand by
what I think is hurting us, and this is what the new administration with the Biden administration wants to do. They're fighting for that $15 minimum wage, global or not globally, but
nationally.
Nationally,
yeah.
Thank you. What do you know? What our minimum wage is here in Oregon?
Well, I know it's split a few different ways. I know Portland's more. I think Portland's at 12.
No, wow. Okay, living in the past, Blockbuster times.
More than that?
It's 13 something.
Oh, it moved up to 13?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it'll be up to 14. It's on a tiered system. It'll get up to 14.75. But we're like, I think in Portland we're 13.50 and in Salem we're like 12.75. Okay. So is that bad or good?
Terrible.
It's terrible. Why?
Because you're pricing unskilled labor out of a job.
So I text my friend who's in South Carolina. I said, hey man, what's your minimum wage? And he goes, it's $7.50, 7, 8, 50, 9, 50, 10, 50, 11, $7.50 an hour. And I was like, well, he goes, but I don't pay anybody that. I pay them usually around $11. And I go, oh, okay. But you still get to pay them $4 over the minimum wage. So that's great. That says that you as an employer decided to do something step up and above and beyond. Here, if I wanted to pay somebody $4 over minimum wage, I'm paying them almost $18 an hour.
What is the federal minimum wage?
It's in the 7s.
Yeah, so we do pay already well.
Oregon.
Over. Yeah.
We do. But when people come out of the job, they go, oh, it just pays minimum wage.
So he was saying South Carolina's minimum wage.
South Carolina's minimum wage, yeah.
So it was similar to federal.
Yeah.
And so he's saying I'm paying above that.
He's paying 11 and he's going, yeah, but I pay 11. I go, but you get to, people at least, you get to tell them, hey, I pay $4 over the minimum wage. Here, we can't even say that. If we wanted to pay $4 over the minimum wage, all of a sudden you're into skilled labor territory.
Well,
right?
I think that's the thing is like you're pricing people out of a job. And I think that there's an argument to be made that no minimum wage should be in place.
I know you've said this before. My son will argue this for sure. My son is huge into no minimum wage. So my son's 16 and he's like, man, he gets in debates with his friends. He's like, I don't want there to be a minimum wage. And they're like, that's dumb. It needs to be, because they like to conflate minimum and livable, right? Minimum is like just the minimum that we're required by government to make sure it's not slave labor, right? That's what minimum should be. This isn't slave labor because slave labor, that's just not fair, right? Livable is totally different. You work your way up to livable. My son is in the current state of living or working his way up to livable. Well, he lives with me. So livable is anything, right? Because he gets all his stuff from me. So anything that he makes is extra, i.e. that's what allowances are for. So if he could work for $5 an hour, if anybody would at least hire him, but they don't want to because he is in a competing market with 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds,
people with degrees,
65-year-olds that have, retired, but go, oh, I can't really retire. I need to make a little bit extra.
Yeah.
So they have a wealth of knowledge, people with degrees. That's his competition.
Yeah.
And he's going, why the crap would they hire me? I don't know anything.
Well, and moreover, the idea isn't that a minimum wage is supposed to be a livable wage. It's supposed to be something where you have a place to start that will get you some skills and some understanding of job and a work ethic and some basic level skills. And I think, again, I haven't thought through all of the details of no minimum wage and poked holes in it, but on paper and broad brushstrokes, I think it's a fine idea, because I think that if you didn't have to pay minimum wage and you were like, listen, I don't really...
You'd employ so many more people.
You'd employ a lot of people, but moreover, those kids, because that's what they would be, young kids, probably on summer vacation, they don't really have a lot of responsibility or skills, they would get to learn something from
Life
you.
lessons.
And they would get more skilled so that they could demand a higher wage. And the other thing that people don't understand, which really bugs the crap out of me, is labor is a competitive market just like anything else. There is only a finite amount of labor available to the market.
Is that something that's rare as well?
What?
So it's worth something? Labor?
Yes, it's rare. Labor is rare. Yes, that is true.
It's worth more than Bitcoin?
No, it's not rare. I won't say that it's rare, but it's competitive. It's a competitive market. And I think that forcing industries to fight for it would be a good thing. And if you opened up that labor pool because you said minimum wage is not there, so guess what? The labor pool opened way up. It would get a little bit more competitive for people to go, well, I want to...
Here's something to throw you. I might be more open to open borders if we got rid of our minimum wage.
Yeah.
And I think simultaneously, I would have to get on the same bandwagon as you and get rid of a lot of our welfare systems. I think there are some good welfare systems in there. I think, like WIC is a good one, a lot of the food stamps and things like that, I think are great. I'm not opposed to them. Sometimes when I get into arguments with people, they think I'm just 100% against them. I'm not opposed for them if you need them, but they're a time period. They're like, you know what? I lost my job. I'm stuck in this. I got to provide for my family. I don't want them to go hungry. It's time period for you to rebuild yourself and get to where you need to go. It's not, I'm now living off the government.
Well, in the same way that you see most heavy subsidization for, say, single women and children, which is great. I mean, I'm with you, where I don't want no subsidization. That's a very cold way of behaving. I'm not that hardcore of an economist. But you see that the subsidization starts to take over for something in their life, meaning they work only to the point that they have to work, and then you subsidize the rest, so then their productivity goes down. And similarly, it's like that with couples. It's like sometimes it requires a couple to work together to raise a child or to live. And if you subsidize the guy out of this situation, you'll see less guys in those situations. And that creates havoc on the family structure, which I think is terrible. But it's similar to open borders. The argument with me for like food stamps and welfare is like, sure, I think it should be there, but I think that there should be a way of controlling it, just like open borders. I think that you have to be able to put some standard on it to get here. You can't just show up here and start taking advantage. It's the same with the welfare system. It's like, I just don't like, and I've seen this really rampant in the last year, people who get on welfare, get on OHP, and because they're taking advantage of the system, because the system during Corona was like, if you get on OHP, you don't really need to prove a lot other than your wages got disrupted to get on OHP. So there's people out there making $100,000 a year right now that are also on OHP, and to my knowledge, they can't get kicked
Oregon
off.
Health Plan. Yeah. The other thing that bothers me too during coronavirus, every school is giving out free lunches. Free lunches. And I go, oh, we just get that now? I mean, I remember when I went to school, you had to kind of qualify, but now it's everyone. So then they have all these free lunches made, and I'm like, babe, if you want, you can go pick up free lunches because they're just going to go to waste. They're just there if you want to, I mean, our kids can, if you want some extra food and not have to pay for groceries. So you got somebody who can definitely take care of themselves, getting out there, getting free lunches. And I go, why are we even doing that? We're not starving kids in Africa, making sure they're getting fed.
I currently have someone close to me in my life who I'm watching, living his or her life. I'm going to be very non-specific about this.
I think I know who it is.
Living his or
Mr. or Mrs. X.
Living his or her life as though they're going to ride it out until they don't have to anymore. They're like,
Mr. F.
There's no urgency on them to get the job, to get the car, to step up, to level up. They're just going, hey, while it's here, I'm going to take advantage of it.
It's a balancing act too, right? I don't know how much you look at this, but it's how much income should I make before the government takes too much? So I got to make sure I ride this wave. And then you have the people who go, oh, okay, well, if I drop below that just a little bit more, look how much government subsidies I get. So in all reality, I make a lot. It's like looking at your job plus benefits, you know, and taking all that into consideration. And you go, oh, what if I had job plus government benefits?
Well, that's like what we saw in coronavirus. It was like how many people we reached out to that were like, that we want to give them their job back. And they're like, it's a little too close for my comfort. I'm pretty much making that
I can
now.
stay at home and make the same amount of money.
Do nothing or do something on the side and collect unemployment. And I was like, that's a stupid idea by government.
Yeah. Yeah. All these ideas were a little rushed for coronavirus, which I get it. It was tough. But yeah, you did have people who were playing the system.
Yeah,
That's
you
irritating.
did. I think though that the one thing that I don't really understand, because I'm so over the politics end of things, like the hardcore end of politics. I'm into economics. Is like the kids in cages thing. I don't really know. Do you know much about that? Like, what is that about? What is happening there? What's the big problem?
So what happens is when you come over from Mexico to here, you have a more likely, if you have a kid with you, that the American government's going to help you. Kind of like your friend you talked about, Mr. X, she was brought over when she was 2, right? So if what they'll do is they'll just random people will have a kid, and then they'll come over from the border with a kid. And so then that's more likely to get you some sort of like amnesty or, you know, grant you something here in the United States. And then, you know, they talk about not separating kids from their parents. The problem is some of these people, they're not even their kids. And they don't know what to do with them. So they're putting them in these, they're holding cells. They call them cages. But they're just like holding cells. Well, they're overrun right now. So now they're trying to lease out hotels that are, you know, abandoned hotels that, or hotels that aren't making very much money.
What's to keep these people put in hotels to just leave and be like, yeah, thanks, I'm out of here. I'm getting back into America.
Like just getting back or just walking around in America.
Yeah. Like if we're talking about going from cages, quote unquote, which is a holding cell, like, hey, you're not supposed to be here. We're going to place you in this cage, right? Holding cell.
I don't know why they don't just truck them right back over and go, hey, you can't be here, and just
that's
boom.
what I don't understand. Is like, why the crisis? Why?
So the major reason is we have what's called seeking asylum. You know, we have that clause in our immigration where if you're seeking asylum, we're going to take you in. And so they have to weed through all these people and go, okay, are you just trying to come here because you don't like it in Mexico and you think it's better here and you're really not going to contribute anything? You're just trying to take care of our welfare system.
Or are you legitimately
seeking asylum?
Yeah.
So they have to go through all those people. And so some of these people, they have, who knows if their story is true or not. I don't even know how you'd validate it. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Because, how do you validate anything if somebody's like no identity and...
Yeah, you're just coming over and you're like, yeah, the government's persecuting me. I guess these people are trained enough.
So has this always been the case? Like, because it seems like the Trump administration, they were like, kids in cages. And now the Biden, it's like even worse. Like, it makes me wonder, was this always the case?
Yeah, it started with, they say it happened with the Obama era. They were people in cages. True. And Trump was actually the one who said, okay, fine, we're not going to separate families. And believe it or not, the border patrol was super upset about that. They were kind of pissed at Trump, going, how are we even going to do that? We have limited space, and now you want us to try to keep all of the families together that we don't even think some of these people are family members. They're just using these kids to come over here, and now you're going to try to keep them together. The logistics of doing that is crazy. And so Trump did that to appease people, but the border patrol was actually pissed about that. Now I don't really know what they're doing down there. I just know a bunch of people are coming to the border and seeking asylum.
So you're saying
because Biden said, hey,
right? Because Biden on the campaign trail was like, hey, get me in the office and I'm going to just open these borders on up and anybody can come in. Yeah. And then he got
should be. I don't know if he said it. I don't know if he said it like that, but he pandered to some of the left leaning people that were saying we should be helping these people. And he said, yeah, if they come over here illegally, we should make them residents.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't they come over here?
And so, just dumb question. Are they literally just marching up to the border in convoys and being like, let us in? Is that the crisis? No,
the crisis is no, because that would be different. There's wherever a border is, there's actually a wall. You came back through the United States border, right? They're coming through in other areas where there's holes, and they're coming in droves where ICE or border control can't keep up with it. And so they are catching them, but they're catching them in so many, and they're kept on those border outskirts. areas. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, hey, this is an interesting area for economics because it's one of the gray areas that I feel like some of the economists that I respect the most have different views on it, slightly different views, but enough different that you go, well, what is the right answer? And I think it's like anything else. There's a lot of nuance to it, and I don't know that there is a right answer. My take on it, though, so far, at least as far as I've educated myself, is I don't think immigration is bad in any way. I just think that and again, I think making it illegal or legal is only necessary if you're going to subsidize them once they get here. In the old days, sure, come on over to some extent. There's probably a very loosey-goosey process, but you have to be productive when you're here. And I think for me, that's where I've landed with it so far.
I mean, like even visiting. You ever visited other countries?
Yeah.
Like where you have to like pay to get a visa in there so they can keep track of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of people here, right? They pay for a visa card to be in here. Mm-hmm. And the visa will expire after a certain amount of time. So the government can keep track of you. That way, if you're some sort of terrorist or somebody that does something illegal, they can keep track of you. Because really, we're trying to keep it safe. It's not like these rules are out there just because. Mm-hmm. The government of whatever country that is wants to keep track of you. You go to different places. You go to China, you have to get a visa. You go to a lot of countries in Africa, you have to get a visa. You go to well, actually, a lot of European countries you don't have to get one. I don't know why, but they want to keep track of you. I mean, if you go to China and you go there and you like, okay, I'm going to place up residency after your 5 or 10 years, whatever your visa is. I think it's 10 years there. They're going to be like, hey, you got to exit now because your visa is expired, and there's a process to getting that. You have to apply for it. It's a little bit easier than answering all the all the questions about the nationality. You have to pay a little bit of money to get there, but at least you're there and you get to figure out whether you want to be there.
Yeah.
Why don't we provide that to those people and say, hey, you know what? Fine. Don't even be, citizens yet. Just pay for your visas. Get in here and see if, you're going to contribute to society or not.
Well,
Can we do it that way?
I think the other step to that, the other portion of that, which I think this is a little bit of a controversial one, is you should have to assimilate. What are your thoughts on assimilation? Meaning having to get here and sort of behave like an American, whatever that means.
Well, I think that's a pretty broad thing because behaving like an American should be a melting pot and you can behave any way you want to.
Well, to some degree,
right?
but I think that Mexico used to be much larger and it used to be most of Southern America. And what happened was basically people moved to what is now Southern United States, but then Mexico. And they said, yeah, we want to be citizens of Mexico. Great. And then they got here in droves and then they basically just said, psych, we don't want to do what you're doing. We want to get back with America. And so it's like they came in, they did not assimilate, and then they basically...
I'm not sure how I feel like that because assimilation would be speaking the language, right? Mm-hmm. Which I think is good. I don't know if overall, if we become a 2-language country, if that's overarchingly a bad thing or not. I don't know. Assimilation would maybe be with, sports, and soccer is a worldwide sport. Soccer's super famous in Mexico. The United States, we don't totally take on that.
Let me ask you this.
In Mexico, they're super hardworking people. In the United States, we've got a lot of lazy people. So I don't know what assimilation would look like from Mexico to America.
Well, I think that...
aside from not setting up tents in any way, but that is something that we're allowing as well. Okay, let me ask you this
different question. Joe Rogan recently moved to Texas from LA. He moved from LA to Texas because he was like, the politics are getting out of hand. Now, Joe Rogan, I'm pretty sure, is like a pretty lefty liberal.
Yep.
But he even felt like it was getting too far extreme left. It was getting real crazy, lawless, couldn't own a business. It was too expensive and there was no protection. So he moved to Texas. And a lot of people are going, hey man, him moving here, he's drawing a lot of his lefty friends here. And we hope they don't come over here and basically just start voting in left-leaning policies to make Texas more like their home state. And the concern being from Texans is they're like, well, we don't want those laws here. But, so like you can't keep them out, right? Because they're an American citizen.
Right.
But like if they get here and they start voting like they used to, then they'll just turn it into LA 2.0.
Yeah, I guess that would be my problem with why I believe some of the Democrats want some of the illegal aliens to come over here. Because I think they're just going to vote that way because it's all the government subsidy programs.
Yeah, so what do you
that
here
would be
for?
my real.
Yeah, that's another productivity thing. And I'll end with this. Have you ever seen the documentary called Wild Country on Netflix?
No. Here's the thing. You ask a lot of times if I've seen a documentary. And if I wouldn't even need to ask that question to you because you've probably seen it because I feel like that's all you watch. Have you heard of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
No, I've actually never watched any Marvel movies.
Well, that's upsetting.
Blow your mind?
Yeah, it really does.
You're like my wife, dude. When I go, hey, let's watch something, and I start going to the documentary, her eyes are rolling so far back in her head. She's like, I don't want to be educated right now.
Right. There's a time and a place, and I love documentaries. You and my wife can just watch documentaries today.
Right, and you and Lynn could watch movies. And
Great,
weird
let's
things.
get together. We'll watch movies in separate rooms.
What is that show, Wife Swap, where you go live with the other person for a while?
Yeah, which is actually a totally appropriate show. I thought at first I was like, this is not going to be...
When I say that now, people are like, what kind of kinky shows are you? I'm like, no, it wasn't like that.
Swingers,
celebrities and everybody.
It's not like
but
that.
The documentary is called Wild Country. It's actually really interesting. It talks about an Indian guru who, I'm talking probably in the 60s, who had this huge mass following in India. Something sketchy happened. We aren't sure what. He somehow chose to move to Oregon, in Eastern Oregon, and he brought his cult following with him.
Oh, you're talking about the Rajneeshis.
The Rajneeshis.
Yes, I've seen this one.
And they started...
Oh, that's weird. I didn't see this one.
And they started, like, voting small town. Like, they took the town over first, and then they named it after themselves. And then they were going for the county, and then I think they got pretty far with that. And then eventually the state of Oregon was like, whoa.
No. They started poisoning people with salmonella.
Right, but do you know what else they did? They started sending people to recruit homeless people to come live with them because they're like, if we can get our numbers up big enough, we can pretty much take over the state and change it. And it was to the point where I don't remember exactly what happened, but the state had to step in and go, no, you can't do this. We're not allowing you to just come in here.
They drove like
over.
Bentleys.
They drove Bentleys. They all wore like burgundy.
Yeah.
It was weird. But anyway, Assimilation.
I didn't know that's what it was called. I just know it as the Rajneeshis.
Wild Country. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My wife made me watch that one. So that's how you know
I loved
that.
it. I watched it twice.
What?
It's just such a weird thing of Oregon's history.
Why would you watch it twice?
Do you know now it's like some Christian camp?
Oh, well,
like some Christian group.
If you were, do you feel you would be a better? Would you ever accidentally fall into being like a cult follower?
No.
Could you ever be a cult leader?
No, I don't have the charisma for that.
I feel like I would be a really good cult leader.
You could be. I think that you.
I don't want to be. I'm just making that clear.
I think that you have to be. There has to be a twinge of evil in there. That I don't think you have that.
You don't think so?
No.
I think I can get there.
I think you would want to be it until you realize people are following you, and then after a while you'd be like, this is weird.
Guys, I'm sorry. I took advantage of you.
I took this too far.
I'm going to write some checks.
This was a joke. I don't actually think the earth is flat.
Right. That's why I would do it. I would do it just to go, I told you I could lead a cult.
Yeah. See, you're very willing to do that. That would be like you going into a restaurant, which you did, and start up a conversation and convince somebody or somebody else. It's a lot of work, and for what? And I'm just going like, could I? Maybe, but do I want to? No, it's a lot of effort.
Yeah, now I kind of feel like I need to.
Plus, I just feel like it always seems super sad in those cults. Like, all the believers are like, yes, he's the best, whoever, Jim Jones or the Rajneesh. But it seems like at the top, there's a certain level of like depression and sadness and weirdness that like, you got to be a little mentally off to be a cult.
Yeah. Well, I think you've convinced me. I'm going to try to start a cult.
Go for it.
Bucket list.
Hey, when coronavirus hit and you started inviting people over to your house for church, I was like, it's official. He's starting a cult.
Oh my gosh. You know how many problems that caused? Like, I had the church here, and then people at my church were like, oh, he's starting his own church. And I was like, no, I am just doing it because you guys aren't meeting. Okay?
I called it the Marshall cult multiple times, and I got some weird looks because I don't really think it was a cult. It was actually awesome.
Sounds like I can check that off my list. I already started a cult.
You did, kind of. You did. Yeah, you didn't get anything weird to happen, though.
Yeah, I didn't want anything weird to happen. I need
an act of devotion. That's what I need.
It was devotion.
Jim Jones had everyone kill themselves.
Yeah.
Rajneesh had everyone wear burgundy. I don't really know what else he did, but...
If I do my church again, will you come?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
All right.
I think I was not giving up my Sundays because you put me on split days off, and I was like, "This is my one day. I'm not coming over there."
Wow, spiteful much.
Yeah, I was. I was taking it out on God.
Okay, wrong person to take it out on. I think that probably wraps us up. Yeah.
Okay, I guess we're done. Goodbye.
Or do you want to keep going?
Oh, is there anything else we need to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Hey, did we talk about what you thought did we get all the facts?
I think we did.
Okay.
Do you want to touch on Bitcoin?
Let's hit Bitcoin one more time.
It's not Bitcoin.
Start over.
Oh, my back hurts so bad.
Dude, that sucks.
The wind's not helping either.
If someone wants out of a lease, what info do we need? Ross.